The movie begins in 1930 in Jericho, a dusty, isolated Texas town about 50 miles from the Mexican border. Two rival gangs, the Italian mob led by Fredo Strozzi and the Irish mob headed by Mr. Doyle, are battling for control over a profitable smuggling route. Law enforcement has essentially given up trying to maintain order, and the town's current sheriff, Ed Galt, appears to be benefiting from the chaos. John Smith, a self-proclaimed loner with no moral compass, arrives in Jericho and quickly causes trouble by glancing at Felina, Doyle's girl. This draws the attention of Doyle's thug, Finn, who confronts him. After a brief exchange of insults, Finn vandalizes Smith's car, smashing the windshield and slashing the tires, then coolly sends him to the sheriff. At the sheriff's office, Smith finds no help. Galt and his silent deputy Bob stay out of it. Galt simply suggests he get himself a gun. Smith visits the local saloon, which is deserted except for the bartender, Joe Monday. After downing a drink, he arms himself and heads to Doyle's headquarters to confront Finn. When he asks for compensation, Finn draws his weapon first, but Smith shoots him dead in seconds and wrecks the place. None of the other gang members retaliate. Soon after, Strozzi offers Smith a spot in his crew, providing him with lodging at the Italian-run hotel and complimentary meals. There, Smith meets Strozzi's alluring girlfriend, Lucy, and learns about Doyle's feared enforcer, Hickey. At a group dinner for Strozzi's men, Giorgio, Strozzi's hot-headed cousin, shows up late and instantly dislikes Smith. Disillusioned by Strozzi's poor leadership and Giorgio's attitude, Smith returns to the saloon, hinting at his growing frustration with their incompetence. That night, while spending time with a prostitute named Wanda, Smith is targeted in an ambush by the Irish mob. However, he manages to kill both attackers. It turns out Wanda was forced to set him up. She's distraught, and Smith knocks her unconscious. Later, he finds out she was blackmailed into cooperating and leaves her to be arrested by Sheriff Galt. Shortly after, Strozzi summons Smith to a remote desert hideout at a roadside diner. There, they plan an ambush on Doyle's next shipment coming from Mexico. When the convoy arrives at the border, Smith is assigned to negotiate with the Mexican commander, Ramirez. He bribes Ramirez to betray Doyle's men, and the Mexicans brutally eliminate the Irish guards. Later, Smith arranges Wanda's release from jail, gives her bus fare, and ensures she can safely leave town. He also tips off Sheriff Galt about the convoy ambush and hears more tales about Hickey's deadly reputation. Back in Lucy's room, Smith pays her for intel on Strozzi and seduces her. Before long, Doyle and his associate Jack try to recruit Smith to kill Strozzi, believing his insider status makes him ideal. Smith hesitates, which Doyle misreads as a refusal. Deciding to manipulate both sides, Smith quits Strozzi's crew. Enraged, Strozzi pulls a gun on him and reminds him that nobody quits me. Smith roughs up Giorgio and faces off with Strozzi in a tense standoff. Ultimately, Strozzi backs down, admitting Giorgio isn't worth dying over. Smith lays low for a few days, trying to stay sober while waiting for Hickey to arrive. In the meantime, he hears from the local mechanic that Giorgio has been digging around, trying to uncover Smith's secrets. Playing both sides, Smith feeds Giorgio a false tip, warning him to be wary of Ramirez in case he betrays him again. Giorgio takes the bait and heads to Mexico. Smith then informs the Irish mob that Giorgio will be meeting with the same Mexicans who double-crossed them and stole their trucks. He gets paid for the tip, but still avoids pledging allegiance to either gang. Eventually, Hickey arrives in Jericho and instantly distrusts Smith. Hickey travels to Mexico, storms into a cantina, and kills both Ramirez and a Border Patrol officer before capturing Giorgio. Meanwhile, Smith meets with Felina in an abandoned church, where she shares her story with him. Back in Jericho, Texas Ranger Captain Pickett arrives and warns both Smith and Sheriff Galt that he's investigating the Border Patrol agent's murder. He declares he'll return in 10 days with reinforcements and will tolerate only one gang operating in the town, not two. He also wants Smith gone before then. Hickey returns with an offer for Strozzi, $100,000, and the stolen trucks in exchange for Giorgio. At the exchange, Strozzi tries to gain leverage. He's captured Felina and proposes a swap. Giorgio for Felina. Smith silently watches as the deal goes through. Tensions explode. War is now inevitable. Later, Lucy confides in Smith, revealing that Strozzi and Giorgio discovered her affair with him and brutally beat her, even mutilating her ear. Convinced by her story, Smith gives her $500 and tells her to catch the next bus out of town. He then accepts Doyle's previous offer, but only with $1,000 paid up front. To stir fear, Smith claims he heard a rumor that Strozzi is bringing in extra gunmen that night, implying that Felina might be in danger again. Doyle sends Smith to a hideout where Felina is being held under heavy guard. Smith boldly walks through the front entrance, instantly arousing suspicion. Without hesitation, he opens fire and wipes out everyone inside. He rescues Felina, puts her in a car, and urges her to drive across the border. Before leaving, she gives him her cross as a keepsake. Though Smith knows it's time to disappear, he chooses to stay behind to personally deliver the news to Doyle. The next morning, Doyle arrives and buys Smith's story that Felina was taken. He's heartbroken, but Hickey isn't convinced. Back in Jericho, Smith cleans himself up and takes a bath. Hickey soon shows up with bad news. Someone spotted Felina across the border where she sold the car. They search Smith's room and find her cross. Smith is dragged to a basement in Doyle's hideout, where Jack and Hickey viciously beat him, while Doyle rants about how he rescued Felina from poverty. Realizing Smith won't talk, they leave him for dead. The next day, two thugs return, but Smith has vanished. He ambushes them from inside a metal cabinet, using one as a human shield while emptying his gun into the other. Smith escapes and evades the Irish search teams. He hides out in the saloon, concealed behind walls of ice. Later, Smith passes information to Sheriff Galt, who tells Doyle that Smith is holed up at Slim's roadhouse in the desert, knowing full well the Italians are actually hiding there. Doyle's men torch the building and gun down everyone trying to escape. Even as Strozzi and Giorgio beg for mercy and promise to leave town, they're executed on the spot. The Irish believe Smith has perished in the fire. Smith retreats to the abandoned church to recover from his injuries. Joe brings him food and medical supplies daily, but eventually the Irish mob catch on. They capture and beat Joe. Sheriff Galt tracks Smith down and informs him about Joe's abduction. Meanwhile, Hickey and Doyle are still in Mexico, hunting for Felina. Smith borrows Galt's gun and sets out to the old hotel that used to be Strozzi's stronghold, now serving as Joe's prison. On the way, he retrieves his lucky hat and pauses at the Undertaker's shop, one of his only allies left in Jericho. Smith storms the hotel with brutal precision, his shots blasting enemies like rag dolls on wires. Upstairs, he chases Jack into a room where Joe is tied up. Joe signals with his eyes, and Smith fires through a cabinet, killing Jack hiding inside. Wounded, but not fatally, Smith disinfects his gunshot with whiskey. Before leaving, he plants a Tommy gun at the door, a warning for Hickey, and tells Galt he'll be waiting at Slim's roadhouse. With the town falling apart, Galt heads for Houston, and even the Undertaker plans to skip town. Smith and Joe return to the scorched remains of the roadhouse and wait. At dawn, Doyle, Hickey, and Bob arrive. Joe hides nearby. Doyle, lovesick and desperate to find Felina, proposes a truce, but Joe emerges and shoots him dead, unable to forgive the damage done to their town. Bob lifts his shotgun, prompting Smith to shoot him down. Hickey drops his weapon and walks away, unwilling to die on Texan soil. He asks Smith if he'd shoot an unarmed man in the back. Smith replies he's done worse. Hickey then tries to pull a hidden pistol, but Smith doesn't hesitate. He shoots him in the head. Finally, Smith retrieves Felina's cross from Doyle's body, gets into a car, and drives off, resuming his solitary journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.